What's up, everybody? What's up? It's been a while since we did one of these lives where I just answer any and all questions. Feel free, guys, in the comments, anything you want to ask me. I'm not going to necessarily answer everything if you get really crazy personal, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Let's start with Joe Toth, all the way from Ohio. So we got a lot of Ohio people in the chat today. So Joe is asking, are peptides genuinely effective for muscle growth and recovery? Or are they just a modern version of old school Joe Weider style marketing hype? I'm not seeing big changes in my clients. Well, I mean, I've only used them a little bit myself. I didn't see massive changes. I remember using the BPC 157, which is the #1 recovery peptide for healing from injuries and things like that. I used that for my quadricep tear rehab and recovery. And I honestly don't know if I healed any faster than I would have. It's really hard to say. As far as the ones that you know, for use for muscle growth and so on, I don't know. I hear mixed reviews myself. Some people rave about them. Some people say not very impressed with the results. I would say, you know, they're kind of pricey. They're on par with steroids as far as price goes. We know steroids work. I'd say, you know, if you don't want to use steroids, give them a try. If you're not seeing results after a couple months, that's it. Scrap it. Forget it. Don't keep using something that doesn't work. But yeah, I have no definitive answers on that. Big Mike Cox, originally from Ohio, now living in Florida. If you could go back and do things differently in bodybuilding, what would you do differently? I would put my ego away and hire a coach. Well, Mike, I don't think either of us had that option when we were starting out. I mean, I started bodybuilding. I consider the day I started bodybuilding to be fall of 1987, when I really understood. I had my first magazine that I looked through and I'm like, okay, so this is bodybuilding. That's what I want to look like. Prior to that, I've been lifting weights and trying to get bigger and stronger, but not necessarily having bodybuilding as the end goal. So 87, fall of 87, there were not coaches around back then, but if there had been, yeah, I could have saved myself a lot of time and effort. And, you know, looking back at my competitive years, I probably could have done better if I had a coach, just to keep me from doing some of the dumb things that we all get caught up in. I mean, toward the end of a prep especially, it's really hard to be objective when you look in the mirror. You're either going to think you look better than you do or worse than you do. It's very hard to be objective. So you might think, oh no, I'm flat, I need to eat more, when you really need to keep dropping fat. You might think, oh, I'm shredded, but yeah, you're still fat, you need to be leaner. Or you could be super lean and ready to go, but thinking I got to keep pushing and pushing. And I did that a few times and ended up really stringy and over dieted and flat, where if I'd had a coach to say, hold on, don't do that second session of cardio today. Have a little bit more carbs, you know, just somebody to steer the ship for me toward the end when I was in no position to be a captain. Put it that way. I mean, there's a lot of things that were done differently. That could be a whole hour. Zionic, what's up? It was good doing live. All right, let's go. When coaching someone deep in prep, do you prioritize sleep, stress, or sodium first? Sodium has nothing to do with prep, nothing. I mean, I want to make sure people are having enough sodium. I don't want to keep harping on it, but sodium is something you want in your diet. It's something that's necessary for muscular contractions. You're not going to be able to get a pump. You don't want to go no sodium. Even on contest day, you don't want to go no sodium. You want to have a little lower sodium, but you'll be so flat, unable to get any pump. Someone deep in prep, sleep is hugely important. Stress and sleep kind of go hand in hand. A lot of times, if you're stressed out, you're not going to be sleeping right. And if you're not getting much sleep, you're going to be stressed and tired all day. Sleep is very, very important. But it's by the time you get to those final few weeks, like my son is, he's 2 weeks and 3 days out now from his first show. We definitely want to make sure he gets enough sleep. He gets plenty of sleep. Doing his cardio, everything works hand in hand. There's not one thing that's far and above more important than anything else. But yeah, definitely you want to make sure you're sleeping. If you're not sleeping and if you're all stressed out, that's a perfect storm for losing muscle mass, especially if you're a drug-free athlete, because your cortisol levels are going to go through the roof. And if you don't have steroids, which are anti-catabolic, working in your favor, yeah, I mean, you're going to lose a significant amount of muscle. Stepan, hey guys, just want to check in. Wish active. What's up, man? Hope you all have a great day. Stepan is the village in Ukraine my grandmother came from. True story. What current trendy fitness advice is bullshit? I don't follow a lot of the trendy stuff. One thing that I see a lot, I guess I could go on all day, but one thing that I see far too much of is a lot of these influencers, especially the very young influencers and would-be online coaches, posting up videos saying barbell rows suck, deadlifts suck, bench presses suck, all the basics. They're telling you these things are worthless and they're horrible, and they're trying to get you to do some other variation, usually like a crazy isolation move on a bench at this weird angle where you're using like this much on the weight stack, really isolating and squeezing this tiny little part of the lat. When if you have no back yet, if you don't have a really big, thick back, you need to be doing barbell rows, dumbbell rows, T-bar rows, deadlifts, not spending all your time with these little cable things and trying to really isolate and squeeze. No, that's one thing is I see a lot of influencers now, especially the young ones. Yeah, I'm the old guy here. I'm the cranky old mother, cranky old bastard, trying to steer you away from the basics. The basics have always worked. They're always going to work. There's a reason they're called basics, because you need to master those and get good at those and get strong on those before you start really worrying about isolating. You know, you're worried about, we talked about this Lee Priest, he mentioned it. People worried about, oh, I need to do this to striate my chest. Meanwhile, their chest is this thick. Worry about striating a chest when you got this much pec meat, okay? Until then, press, dips, incline barbell, flat dumbbell, all kinds of good free weights. Yeah, good stuff. Coaching, Oh, and you know what else? If it fits your macros, I don't have a huge problem with that one, honestly. Give me the best advice to get rid of the elephant skin. Yeah, I mean, John, I actually even now I have a little bit of loose skin on the corners of my pecs. It really bothers me. It's loose skin. I'm assuming that you were bigger before, like I was. I used to carry about 20 pounds more muscle mass for many years. I did, and I'm downsized now. And it's the same problem with obese people, although they have it to a much larger and more noticeable extent. You'll see people that lose 100, 200, 300 pounds. You see it on these shows like The Biggest Loser, My 600-Pound Life. When they lose all the weight, they have all this extra skin. You'll see like it flapping around, and they have folds and folds flapping down from where their big giant gut used to be down to their knees. And you have to have skin surgery removal. Skin removal surgery is the only way to get rid of that. And I assume that's what you're talking about, is that loose skin. I wish there was some magic potion, a cream or something you could just rub on and it would go back. But as we age, you're 73, I'll be 56 later in the year. We lose a lot of the collagen that was in our skin that made it pliable and elastic. That's why our skin used to be so tight, firm. And as we get older, it gets wrinkly. It starts sagging because it doesn't have that elastic component, the collagen in it anymore. So unfortunately, yeah, the only option you have at that point is skin removal surgery. I wish I had some better news for you, but I'm kind of in the same boat. Like the only way my chest, I could get rid of the loose skin, because I'm not fat by any means. I'm not in contest condition, but I could be in contest condition in like 8 weeks if I really wanted to. If I really got super strict on my diet and added in more cardio, I could do that. But that loose skin's still going to be there. I don't have any anywhere else on my body, but I do have it in these corners of the pecs right there. And the only way I could get rid of it would be if I built my chest back up to what it was, which, needing a new shoulder, there's just no way I can press the kind of weights. That's why I've lost some size in my shoulders and my chest over the past few years as this shoulder's gotten worse. And Tuesday I am having my consultation with the surgeon, and we're going to book a day to get it replaced. My younger brother had his left shoulder, same one I need. He had his replaced on Monday, 3 days ago. What's today? Thursday? Yeah. What's good? Your mom's flip-flop in Deutschland, right? Yeah, you're over in Germany. Jam Butterfly, a girl. Oh, wow. Thank you for being one of my very, very few female viewers. I understand you want followers, but you don't match well with Matt. He's very negative. Not sure I comments in Bible. Too good for him. So she's referring to the Muscle Discord show that I go on Monday nights live with Matt Sinkerang and Phil Clayhard, the Jamaican Tank. That's not my channel. That's his channel. I don't think it really helps me. Obviously that is part of my motivation he mentions my channel at the beginning, and I'm hoping to get more viewers and followers. I don't know how successful that is. I haven't seen a massive uptick. So yeah, I like Matt. He does tend to be negative sometimes, overly critical. I think part of the reason I still do the show, or I like doing the show, is because I can sort of counteract that. He might say something I disagree with, And I'll pipe right up and say, no, I don't agree with that at all. This is what I think. So I feel like if it's not my channel, it's his channel, it's his video. But I feel I do serve a purpose there as far as being another opinion, another voice. That's, you know, I try to not be negative. If I ever have critiques of bodybuilders, it's purely being objective. It's not based on whether I like them or not. I wish all of them the best. I'm not trying to shit on anybody. I'm not trying to discourage anybody. But if I see things that could be better about somebody, I try to give constructive criticism. I'll never be that guy that says his back sucks. It's always going to suck. He's never going to win the Olympia. You know, I don't like to speak in absolutes like that. And I don't like to say that someone's incapable of ever achieving their goals. And I'm talking about the pros right now, because they all work hard. They're all people I respect, the hard work ethic. I'm just making sure no more. Some of the comments are coming in on the actual posts of video, so I know I'm missing a few. But yeah, I thank you, Jan, for that. That's my thing. What's up, Kalyan? Appreciate that. Of all the magazines, which is the best? Well, there are no more magazines. I'd say, though, for a long time, MD and Flex were, I won't say one was better than the other, but they were both excellent. There was a period of a few years there. I'd say when Peter McGuff was the editor of Flex, I can't remember who was the editor of MD at the time. It wasn't me. But it's not really. Who was it? Was it Riley? Anyway, it doesn't matter. The magazines were both over 400 pages. They had tons and tons of athletes under contract. We were trying to outdo each other. It was kind of like a Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola rivalry situation. So, you know, that forced both of us to keep stepping up our game, get more controversial, get better, more and better athletes signed, the photography, the layouts, everything. We were really had to be on our A game, because Flex was trying to shut us down and we were trying to shut them down. We wanted all their subscribers and we wanted everyone to buy MD and they wanted everyone to buy Flex. You know, a lot of people bought both anyway, but I'd say Flex and MD at that time. Although I always liked Iron Man, which I wrote. That was the original magazine I started writing for back in early '92, and I wrote for them for over 20 years, well over 20 years. They were very different. They weren't as commercialized. They were more about the training, really training and geared more towards training and nutrition for regular people, not so much routines of the pros and here's how Ronnie Coleman diets. It was more geared toward regular human beings, if that makes any sense. And Muscle Mag International was a great magazine. Rest in peace, Bob Kennedy. It was a really fun magazine because Bob was someone who had a deep passion for the sport. He was an artist, along with his partner in the magazine, Gino Edwards, aka Johnny Fitness. They put out a really different magazine. It had more of a fun vibe to it. You really came away from every issue just having a deeper love for the sport, I think. It wasn't, again, and they weren't very commercialized either. They did have a lot of like star profiles of the pros and things like that and training. And I was very fortunate to write quite a bit of those, but I'd say that was just a golden era. The golden era for magazines was probably 95 to 2005, that 10-year span. And then social media really started to permeate the industry. And, you know, as soon as things like Instagram got big and YouTube got big, that was sort of the death knell for magazines. And now they're all gone. We think it's the best supplement stack for natural bodybuilder, currently 36. So you don't need a lot of supplements as a natural bodybuilder. I would stick with the ones that are proven, tried and true. Creatine monohydrate, thousands of studies have been done on it, proven it's effective. More muscular endurance, strength gain. It attracts muscle water into the muscle cells. It's a great, cheap supplement anybody can use, 5 grams a day. Put it in your shakes or dry scoop it, whatever. Creatine monohydrate works great. A multivitamin, mineral, if you're not taking one of those, just to make sure you're getting all the proper nutrients that you need every day. I also take antioxidants, extra things like vitamin C, D3 plus K2, coenzyme Q12. I take quite a few, but like I said, I told you I was going to tell you to keep it simple, so I should really stay on that track with you here. Whey protein isolate, it's basically just food. It's made from eggs. It's made from what they used to just throw away, that part of the eggs, the whey, the skim that rose to the top during pasteurization. But whey protein, a multivitamin, creatine monohydrate, and a pre-workout. I mean, you could just use coffee, espresso, something like that with high caffeine, but there are plenty of good pre-workouts out there. Right now, I'm with a company called Legion Sports. The link is in my descriptions and everything. 20% off your first order. They make really good products, but I wouldn't steer you towards things like test boosters, things like that, because I don't feel they're very effective. Having tried them myself as a natural bodybuilder, which I was a natural bodybuilder for many years before I started on gear, and I didn't see any of those. They were sort of in their infancy back then, but I still don't think the test boosters do a whole lot to boost your test. But yeah, you can't go wrong with the basic stuff: creatine, multivitamin, whey protein, and a pre-workout formula. It's really all you need. I wouldn't get too fancy with it. We're drinking 5+ liters a day. Oof, I have a problem going to the bathroom all day. Yeah. Join the club. Any tips based on some info? I heard you should drink 1 liter per 20 kilos. So yeah, 5 liters is it's a lot. I mean, I don't know if you necessarily need 5 liters all the time. If you're in a hot environment, if you're sweating a lot, if you have an active job, yeah. I mean, I'd say we don't use liters here in the USA. We're still stuck with that old measurement system, gallons. I say like a gallon a day is a good base level water intake for most people. You shouldn't be peeing all the time. If you have to urinate, say more than twice an hour, you probably don't. You're taking in more fluid than you need. I know there are these formulas telling you this is how much per pound of body weight, but it's an individual thing. I guess you could probably go down to 4 liters. Like I said, you shouldn't be in the bathroom all day. It shouldn't be to the point where, for instance, I walk my dog twice a day. They're like 45-minute walks, and I drink about a gallon to a gallon and a half a day. It becomes more as we get towards summertime, but right now, a gallon and a half a day is I'm probably at a gallon, to be honest with you guys, plus a couple of cups of coffee. I don't really count. But anyway, when I get back from walking him, 45-minute walk, even if I peed right before I left the house, I have to pee again. But I'm 55 years old. I'm sure my prostate gland is grown and it's pushing against the bladder. And I'm in a different situation than you because I think you said you're 17. So you shouldn't be having to pee that much. If so, cut the fluid intake down a little bit. If you have things like dry skin and dry scalp and you're thirsty all the time, yeah, that's an indication you probably do need to be drinking more. But I have a suspicion you're drinking more than you need right now. When does the grow into the show phase turn to hold it together with cardio and caffeine phase? Grow into the show. I'm not saying it's impossible. The old school guys did it, but this is what they were doing. Growing into a show really just means you're adding muscle mass while you're losing body fat, which you're not going to be able to put on new muscle mass unless you're blasting a shit ton of gear. But even so, what most people say is they were in their off season, they were off gear for a little while, and then once the prep started, usually 16 weeks, that's like the random arbitrary number we all came up with. That's how long a contest prep should be. So that's when they get on their diet, very strict, and they introduce the steroids again, the growth hormone, insulin, whatever, which they've been off for a couple months typically. So if you've been off all the gear for a couple months, off all the PEDs, you are going to put your muscle back on. You're not really growing. You're just putting back the muscle that you had on, the muscle that you only have when you're on drugs. Because as I've said before, when you're on drugs, that muscle mass, a substantial amount of the muscle you carry when you're on drugs is rented. Once you stop the drugs, you're going to lose part of that. So when you do lose part of it and you go back on the drugs and gain, it can seem like you're growing into the show. You're not really growing, because think about it. To get lean, to lose body fat, you need to be in a caloric deficit. You need to be taking in less calories than you're expending. So if you're burning 2,000 calories a day and you're eating 2,000 calories a day, nothing will change. You won't lose anything. You need to go down to say like 1,800 calories a day. I'm not saying these are numbers you should follow. I'm just giving out random numeric examples here. So when you're in that caloric deficit, now your body starts getting rid of the fat. Or you can create that same deficit by doing cardio, and now your energy expenditure, now you're burning more calories. So you could take in the same amount of calories, but if you're burning more calories, now you're also going to be in that caloric deficit. So yeah, but if you're asking like that, there's really very, very rare situations where you're growing muscle going into a show. So I tell just about anybody that I'm coaching or just anybody that's in prep is don't worry about gaining muscle. You have to shift your focus from gaining muscle now to just maintaining the muscle as best you can while getting rid of as much body fat as humanly possible. That's the goal. If you're worried about still gaining muscle, psychologically, you're going to have a very hard time eating less because you're like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to make any gains. Well, you're not supposed to be making gains now. That's what the off season is for. That's why we have these phases of the year as competitive bodybuilders. We have an off season where the goal is you eat a lot of food, you still do some cardio, but you don't do a ton of cardio, and your calories are higher. They're in a surplus. You're taking in more calories than you're expending. That gives your body all the raw building blocks, the nutrients, the calories it needs to theoretically help you synthesize new muscle tissue, lean muscle mass. Then you switch into prep mode. Again, that random arbitrary 16-week mark. That's just what most people do. I don't even know who started the 16 weeks, how that all came about years ago. That's when your focus has to shift from, okay, now forget about building. I'm in the gym to maintain my muscle. You're still training hard. And this is another thing, another mistake that I made, and I still see a lot of people make, is they start doing a lot more intensity techniques, drop sets, supersets, forced reps, all that kind of thing. And their training volume increases and their intensity increases as they're getting towards a show, which now you don't have all that food that you had a couple months ago. Now you're doing more cardio, you're burning more calories. So your body doesn't have the resources to gain any muscle. So what can happen a lot of times, even when you're on drugs, is you can lose muscle because you're burning the candle at both ends. You're doing too much. You know, like with my son, I say, I don't want you doing any supersets, drop sets, anything the last 8-10 weeks. I said straight heavy sets, nothing crazy. You're just training to maintain the muscle mass. You're still training as hard as you can, as heavy as you can, but you're not trying to destroy yourself in the gym every time. And I know that the temptation is always there to do it in prep because you're looking better. You're in tank top now, you're in your shorts, you're tan, you got the veins. You never want to leave the gym. You want to keep training harder. You're motivated. You just want to do more. I want to superset this. I'm going to do a trip. I'm going to do a giant set. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And, you find yourself in the gym with weights for 2 hours because you're looking in the mirror. You're looking fantastic. You're so highly motivated. The show is coming up. But you have to really curb your enthusiasm, temper that, and realize your body doesn't have the resources that it had before. So step back, realize you probably need to cut the volume down, train as heavy as you can, but straight sets. Just go to failure, and that's it. You don't need to be doing drop sets, supersets, giant sets, none of that. That's for the off season when your body has a fighting chance to grow. Instead of now you're putting yourself at the chance of going into a catabolic state, we're going to lose muscle mass. You don't want to lose muscle mass going into a show. Nobody does. Not even the guys that are 300 pounds on stage want to lose muscle mass. And those of us who are mere mortals, oof, no, no, no. Stepan, good luck to your son's contest for you as well. It's what my life goal is to have a son. Yeah, I mean, so my kids are 31 and he's 25. He'll be 26 in September, and no regrets. I said this because my daughter had her birthday a couple weeks ago, and I was just scared shitless when my wife told me she was pregnant. So that would have been like fall of 1993. I'm 20 at that point. I think I was just turning 23 or just turning 24 in the fall of 93. Scared shitless, did not want to be a dad. I didn't want that responsibility. To be honest, I didn't want to have to deal with a baby and all that. I was like, oh no. This is too soon. We've only been married a couple of years, 2 years at this point. And now we're going to become parents and we're going to have to live for some baby. But looking back, wouldn't trade it for the world. But thank you for the good luck. Stick to the basics, kids. Big Mike Cox knows. He's not as old as me, but he's not far behind. And he is big, still big. What do you think is the best supplement stack for an experienced natural bodybuilder training 15 years? Currently 36. I think you were you the guy that, yeah. So I answered that question. Yeah. Basic stuff. Protein powder, a whey protein powder, a creatine, a pre-workout, a multivitamin. There's really no need to get too much fancier than that. I mean, you could get into health supplements like fish oil, extra vitamin C, vitamin D3 and K2. I would add in some health supplements if your budget allows it, just for general health, because the healthier you are, the better your progress is going to be. And that's why I say a lot of guys who are abusing gear, like taking a lot of amounts, their health is being negatively impacted. And that does affect your gains. Even though you're on all these drugs, Now your body's not running well efficiently. Your organs are struggling, your liver, your kidneys, your heart, they're all having a tough time. You can't possibly be the best athlete, whether you consider bodybuilding an athletic pursuit or not. You can't possibly be your best if you're not healthy. So be healthy. Stepan says, growing the show means you've gotten all the fat off early and going to a contest increasing calories. Example, Brandon Curry this year. I wouldn't necessarily call that growing into the show, because growing into the show, most people, when they say that, they do mean that they're growing. They think they're actually putting on muscle mass. But I hear what you're saying. I do like to see people being ready for a show. Like when I coach people, I'm not trying to wait until the very last minute to get all that to fat off. I'd rather have them at 2 weeks out from a show. You should be pretty much ready to get on stage. Like if a phone call came and said, hey, we had to move the contest to this weekend, you wouldn't be like, oh no, I need 2 more weeks. You'd be like, all right, okay. I mean, I don't get to do my peak weekend here, but I could do it. So yeah, if you get all the fat off a week or two before the show, you are allowed to eat a little bit more. Whereas if you're struggling all the way up until contest day to lose fat, that means, you're still depleting, you're still doing all that cardio, you're still going very low, maybe even zero carbs for, like, you might be doing that every day. Don't want to do that. You don't want to go into the show weak and tired and depleted. I mean, that's why people do the whole carb depleting and loading thing, which I'm not a fan of. I did it myself, and I used to have clients do it, and I really don't do that anymore. Now I just have them, instead of depleting, I just have them eat a couple more carb meals the last couple of days. That's all you really need. Eat up, just be nice and full and rested and relaxed. You haven't trained. I have them stop training for a couple of days, so the muscles have time to fill out the glycogen in the muscles, and yeah, you'll be perfectly rested up and ready for contest day. Kalian again. Which non-negotiable variable would associate the most importance with training, nutrition, genetics? Did I put this up on Instagram the other day? There was an interesting. It's in my stories. Oh, Drew Bay put it up. Let me show it to you. It's actually a pie chart that Drew Bay is David Bay's brother. David Bay was the MC for the Arnold Classic. But anyway, Drew is a trainer. He's a very smart guy. I want to show you something. Or did he post it in my? He posted in my thing. I'm sorry. He posted it on my page in a thread I did yesterday. And it was a pie chart representing the importance of things. And I think it's really dead on. So that was on. Here we go. It was in this thread. Yeah. That's right. Here we go. Okay. All right, guys. So take a look at this. Drew Bay made this. I did not make this, but I totally agree with it. It's a hierarchy. So can you read that? It's showing. Yeah, what most people believe is required for success in bodybuilding. You could see training is the biggest part of the training, and supplements are sort of equal in this pie chart of what we think is required for success. Genetics is still a sliver there of the pie. Drugs are a pretty big chunk there. Diet, a little less than drugs. You think a lot of people would tell you diet's like half of it. But in the bottom, you can see genetics in the second pie chart. Let me move that up a little. No, I can't do it. So genetics is half the pie chart in reality. Supplements, little tiny sliver. They're not the big giant sliver up top there. Big chunk of the pie. Drugs, not as important as people think. Not to say that they don't work and that they aren't required to have that freaky look that pro bodybuilders have. They are. But without this genetics here, this big chunk here, if you don't have great genetics, you're never going to be huge. You can be a lot bigger than you are, and regular people are going to be impressed by you. But put you in a room full of pro bodybuilders, you're not going to look like one of them. You'll be big. You're not going to be that big. You're not going to be freaky, crazy big where people are like, geez, look at that guy. So training not as important. I know training and diet, I hate to admit that it's not as important as genetics, but I've seen so many people with gifted genetics over the years, and they're a rare breed. So when I say a lot of people, they're not a huge percentage of the population, but I've seen a lot of those individuals over the years, and I've seen them with really poor diets. They don't eat enough. They eat the wrong things, junk food, fast food, skipping a lot of meals. The training, I see them just cruising along, not training that hard, just doing exercise they like to do, pumping, things like that, or just doing some ego lifting. things that I wouldn't consider proper training, and they still look freaking amazing because, they're genetic freaks. All right. Do you think when you're obese as a teen, the loose skin will make a real big impact? So the lucky thing is like I was talking before about loose skin from a 73-year-old gentleman brought it up. Collagen is abundant in your skin when you're young. So that means if you were obese as a very young person, say a child and a teenager, you can still, if you lose the fat, the skin will sort of snap back like an elastic. That's what we're talking about. Elasticity. Collagen makes your skin elastic. So it will go back for the most part. You shouldn't have much loose skin. However, as you get older, the longer you're obese and the longer that skin is stretched out, and now you're older and your skin doesn't have as much collagen in it, now you're going to have that loose skin. But for most people who are obese, unless they're like morbidly obese, and you don't see too many very young people that are at that stage of obesity, you should be able to have a very minimal amount of loose skin, if any. I've known a lot of people, bodybuilders, that Evan Senapani is a great example. He was a fat kid. By the time he got to high school, I think he had started slimming down. He wasn't obese, but he was a pretty fat, chubby boy. He's posted pictures of it. And obviously, there was no loose skin on Evan Senapani. And I've seen other examples of people who were heavy. They were overweight when they were younger. So the older you are as an obese person and the longer you've been obese and that skin has been stretched out, the less the chances are that skin's ever going to go back, snap back to be tight on the body like it was. See, in good shape as always. I'm trying, Gulto. I'm trying. I'm trying. Do you get a new shoulder to be able to train delts again? Yeah, Mike. I've actually been talking to some people who had it done in my area. A couple actually had the same surgeon that I'm going to be seeing. And I guess you can't ever go back, obviously, to what you used to do. I used to be a shoulder training stud. I was never like the greatest bench presser. I could never bench press much, but dude, I could press 120-pound dumbbells overhead, seated dumbbell press for 10, 12 reps any day of the week. And on a really good day, I could do the 130s. I did 315 military presses for 8, 10 reps many times. Even when I was very young, I was in my early 30s, I could do it behind the neck, which was stupid, but is what it is. So I do expect to be able to train again, much better than I'm able to train now, but nowhere near as well as I was able to train 20, 30 years ago. I mean, I'm not being greedy. If I could be free of pain right now, that's the main thing. Just getting out of pain, because it's constant. It's 24/7 now. It's hard to sleep. It's hard to get comfortable. I can't sleep on the side, obviously, but even on my back, I try to find a position how can I put my arm where the shoulder doesn't hurt? And it's a challenge, but I do expect to be able to train again better than I've been training for a while. So if I can put back just a little bit of the mass that I've lost on my chest and my shoulders, I'll be very happy. I mean, like my legs, I never expect my legs are never going to be what they used to be. I tore my quad. I've been able to put back about 80%, 85% maybe of the mass I had on my legs. It's never going to be what it was, but it's still pretty good. And I have to be happy with that. I can't be greedy. I really try to be grateful for what I'm still able to do, what I do have now, instead of crying about what I used to be able to do or what I used to have. Because what is that? That's just self-pity. That gets you nowhere. It's a pity party. Do wide hips mean bad placing in classic? Yes, they do. Sorry to say. The wide hips, the only division you might be able to get away with wide hips is bodybuilding. And in that, I have to temper that by saying the only way you'll get away with wider hips in bodybuilding is if you have very, very wide shoulders and you build so much muscle mass on top of the clavicles and in the upper back so that you're so wide up top that the wide hips aren't as distracting, because otherwise you're going to look like a block. You're going to be built like SpongeBob. SpongeBob doesn't win bodybuilding shows, guys. You want to have the V taper for your upper body, a small waist, wide shoulders, and upper back. So if your hips are wide, if they're the same width as your shoulders, you're blocky, you're square, you're built more like a refrigerator. And honestly, it doesn't even matter what division. Ideally, every division is looking for that same structure. Wide shoulders, narrow hips and waist, and arms and legs that aren't overly long or overly short. Ideal bone structure. Because when we talk about structure, I know a lot of people don't understand what that means. Structure, shape, muscle structure. Structure is your bones. And all that is, it's obviously you can't change your bone structure. You're born with it. And either your shoulders, your clavicles, they're either going to be narrow, average, or wide. Your hips either going to be narrow, average, or wide. Ideally, for any division, whether it's any of the women's divisions or even a men's division, we're talking about men's physique. Those guys, crazy V tapers. Classic physique, they want to see a crazy V taper. Open bodybuilding, they still want to see a good V taper. I mean, that's part of the reason Andrew Jack beat Sasan Haradi last weekend. Sasan was in better condition. He's got a good amount of muscle. Andrew's obviously, a giant compared to him, but still, Andrew has that superior structure. Very, very wide shoulders, narrow waist. Sasan, average clavicles, and waist it's average. So he doesn't have much of a V taper. And I'll tell you, when the lineup first comes out, before anybody hits a pose, when they're just standing there in that front relaxed position, I can usually get a very good idea of who's going to place where before a single pose has been hit. Just based on what I'm seeing before me, the bone structure, the muscle shape, the size, the definition, I can sort of take it all in very quickly, and I'm usually pretty accurate. So, yeah, wide hips are going to be bad, unfortunately, and I know it's something you can't change, so I feel bad in telling you this, but I have to be truthful. Wide hips, only way you could possibly get away with wide hips is in bodybuilding, and even then, even if you've built so much mass up top to sort of compensate for it, you're still probably going to get beat by someone else who has maybe less mass, but better structure, narrow hips, wider shoulders and upper back. It's a physique contest. It's like a beauty pageant. What's your favorite hobby besides everything bodybuilding? Of course, let me see if anything's come in on Facebook. Okay, no. Horror movies. Yeah. I am a huge, huge horror fan. If you could tell by all the horror tattoos I have. Horror movies have been my thing since I was 3-4 years old. I've seen thousands and thousands of horror movies. Huge. Some of them I've seen 20, 30 times. I just love horror. I love Halloween, my favorite holiday, dressing up in the scary costumes, going to haunted attractions. I've been to Knott's Halloween. What's it called now? Knott's Scary Farm or Knott's Halloween Haunt out in Anaheim, California, or it's in Buena Park. I've been to that like 20 times. I go to Halloween balls and been to one in Vegas. Yeah, so horror and Halloween by far. I mean, I could talk horror movies. The two things I could talk about all day with somebody who's equally passionate. I could talk horror movies, books. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I've read everything he's ever written. I write horror fiction myself. There's a link in the description to my horror. I've got 2 collections of short horror stories I've written that are on Amazon Kindle. So that's my hobby. And most people that know me they know that. John, 30 minutes cardio, AM, PM, strict diet, HVT, high volume training, the best advice for elephant skin. Do you agree? Well, John, if you're talking, if by elephant skin you mean loose skin, the problem with loose skin is it's not going anywhere because it's not fat. You can shrink, you can get rid of body fat, you can get super lean. Absolutely. But I'm not sure if you're talking about elephant skin being wrinkly or loose or both. If you have a lot of wrinkly skin, if you have a lot of loose skin, yeah, I mean the body fat's not gonna help. You see a lot of these masters bodybuilders who are even older than me, guys in their 60s and 70s. They do tend to have loose skin and wrinkles and things like that, even when they get very lean. And there's nothing you can do for that aside from surgical intervention, unfortunately. I mean, I wish it weren't the case. I wish we could just get lean and the wrinkles would be gone and the loose skin would be gone, but it's skin that's been stretched out. And as, like I said, we've lost collagen over the years. It's never coming back. It's that ship has sailed. Everyone liked the video. Thank you, Jasper. What are some good things to stack for growth when running tests? I mean, geez, everything test works well. Just like about everything. It's like a universal donor type of steroid, if that makes sense. I mean, the stack that people have used the most over decades and decades, I'm talking like 60 years of steroid users, test, deca, and D-ball. You can't go wrong. If you can't gain muscle when you're on test, deca, and D-ball, take up golf or something because you are not meant for bodybuilding. That should be enough to pack on muscle for anybody. But like I said, test stacks well with just about everything. Test in Tren, test in Deca, test in Equipoise. I don't mention the other things because, you know, people are starting to use things like Primobolan for off season because it is a little bit safer and they can run in higher doses. But classics, the classic off season building drugs for years and years have been Test, Deca, Equipoise, orals like Anadrol, and Dianabol. Very, very effective, cheap. They're the cheapest drugs compared to the ones that people use for prep, like Anavar, Primobolan. Much, much more expensive. Winstrol, Primobolan's very expensive, guys. It's like 3 times more expensive than Test, at least. So yeah, Test works well with just about everything. So hope that answered your question. Matt likes to stir things up. We're talking about Matt Sinkerang. That's entertaining. He does offer some decent feedback. Yeah, Matt has a good eye for physiques. Like I said, I don't agree with everything, and that's why I do enjoy going on his show on Monday nights, the Muscle Discord live show, because I want to make sure it's not like I'm trying to police him or anything. Obviously, it's his show, it's his channel, but I want to make sure that you know, there's a counterpoint, because sometimes him and Phil are in total agreement when they're talking about somebody or some subject, and I have a very different opinion, and I like the opportunity to introduce another point of view, another opinion. That's really what I'm there for. And, you know, he's a good dude. I like that. When you're deep into prep motivation dips, you go full savage, more into structure routine to push through. Yeah, I don't think my motivation never dipped when I was in prep. If anything, I was always more motivated because I had that date coming up. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any times I've ever been more motivated to train, even though the energy is low. You know, I can distinctly remember I'd be exhausted almost all the time. You know, day-to-day tasks, getting my work done, the writing stuff. It was like it was a grind. I was like living on caffeine. But usually when I got to the gym, suddenly I would have this boost of energy because, you know, I was just so motivated, seeing myself in the mirror and seeing the cuts and the splits and striations and the veins, and in my head, I knew the date. I always knew exactly, okay, I have 3 weeks and 2 days, or I have 4 weeks and 4 days left. It's coming up on July 14th, or it's coming up on October 3rd, whatever date it was. I knew that's the day I was going to be up on stage in those little bitty trunks, nothing to hide. People are going to see every aspect of physique, front to back, top to bottom. Had to be as lean as humanly possible. So as much as I hated the diet at that point, I wanted to eat more food. I wanted to eat junk food. I had cravings. You know, I'd be very hungry at night. In particular, I remember like late at night, waking up because I was so hungry. My stomach would be like tying itself in knots. But just the motivation of knowing that the show was coming up on this specific day and I had to look my best and I really wanted to win. And for me, I always knew, because I wasn't gifted genetically. I had a little better than average genetics, but they weren't great genetics. The only way I had a chance of beating a lot of guys was to just be way better conditioned than them. So that was my motivation: to diet stricter, do a little bit more cardio, suffer, just grind through it, because I knew I have to be shape. Like my son now, he's only 134 pounds. He cannot afford to be anything less than shredded to the bone. Even though these are natural shows he's doing. They're both drug tested. He's still not going to be the biggest guy by far. But if I can make sure he's in condition and make sure he's going to be posing like a veteran, like a champ, he's going to have the best possible chance of winning, placing, whatever. And, you know, we have no expectations. We're just getting him in the best shape he's ever been in his life. It's going to be a great learning experience. It's going to make new friends. It's going to be a lot of fun, regardless of what happens, whether he wins, takes last place, whatever happens, you know, it's going to be a cool day. That makes sense. Thank you for answering. Your Giles, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm very, very grateful that Giles does the power hour with me. So quick thank you for fellow 50 plus. Thank you, man. Thank you, Will. Appreciate that very much. Over 50, man. We grew up in a very different era, didn't we? Yes, we did. Do we know anything about the Pittsburgh Pro live stream? Oh, that's still 4 weeks away. You know, unfortunately, Gab, I will not be able to watch a Pittsburgh Pro. I will be at my son's contest. My son is competing that day in the NPC Natural Massachusetts. NPC just started with natural shows last year, I believe, rolling out more of them. And we had already targeted an organization called OCB, does a show called Spirit of America every spring. It's a big natural show that they do out on Cape Cod here in Massachusetts. So that was the goal. But then when the NPC schedule came out, I saw that. So the OCB show is on Sunday, May 4th. And then I saw this was happening May 10th in Massachusetts. So, okay. It's not even a week later. It's literally 6 days later. So you're already in shape. I'm telling this to my son. Get another show under your belt. Get up there and do stage time. And another thing, I'm sorry I'm off topic about the Pittsburgh. It's just because I won't be able to watch it. I'm going to be at my son's show all day and I coaching him. But as we get closer to Pittsburgh, I'll be doing previews of the show, and I'll have if there's information about the stream, of course, I'm going to share that with you guys. I'm certain they're going to have a live stream. They're not going to be like FIBO, who did not have a live stream. I'm very, very, very confident Pittsburgh will have a very good quality. They'll probably get Gilco to do it. I mean, it's Jim Mannion's show. He's the president. He's the top of the food chain. It's going to be perfectly produced, huge show. They'll have a live stream. Can't remember where I was talking about. Opinion on Dorian's training. If you think people should train like him, sorry, Post Temple Gym sucks. It closed down. Like I mentioned, Drew Bay earlier, who made that pie chart. He's a huge proponent of HIT training, Dorian style, Mike Mentzer style. Very brief workouts, very high intensity, going to failure and beyond, and then giving the body plenty of time to rest. So weight in that scenario, in that style of training, HIT, the weight training workouts, they're supposed to be about a half hour, give or take. Shouldn't be much longer than that. 1 or 2 working sets per exercise. People have their own little variations on it, but I have trained that way. I don't know if it's any more effective. To my knowledge, there's never been an actual, double-blind university study where they took one group and trained them this style, HIT style, very low volume, and another style with more volume. If you guys know of a study like that, I'd be very curious to hear about it. So if something like that was done with plenty of participants who were not newbies, a problem with a lot of those training studies that they're using untrained subjects who are going to make gains anyway. So it's kind of hard to compare the results they would get versus those of us who've been training for a long, long time, even for a few years. You have a lot more training experience and your body's a lot more acclimated to training. But that being said, I didn't care for it personally. I feel like it's very hard to do on your own. Probably best done with a really good trainer who's adept and skilled at that type of training to be able to push you. It's very hard to motivate yourself to do just one absolute set to failure and beyond and then nothing else. It's hard to avoid the temptation. Well, that was good, but I want to do another set. They say, well, if you do it right, you won't want to do another set. It's very hard to get yourself to that high of an intensity level where one set of an exercise is literally all you want or need. When Dorian trained me twice, Dorian put me through a bicep workout back in New Jersey in, 2009 or something. It was like a 20-minute workout at most. I think it was more like 15 minutes. It was 3 exercises. He would have me do a couple warm-up sets, and then it was like one all-out set, super high intensity. I think I actually have it in my photos. Put it back. Come on, Ron. Get rid of that one. Oh, well, you don't need to see it. It's fine. You don't need to see it. So then I didn't feel like I wanted to do anymore. But when I tried it on my own, obviously I didn't push myself quite as hard as Dorian was able to push me. Same thing when he put me through legs. That one time he trained me on legs in Birmingham, England at Temple. That was one of the toughest leg workouts of my life. And I trained very hard. I always trained very hard. Push to failure and beyond. But that was something else because I would do what I thought was the last rep, and Dorian would make me do another and another and another, and I'm like ready to pass out, blood pressure through the roof, I'm sure, from the effort, the straining. And I definitely didn't want to do anything else for legs when we were done with that. It was all I could do just to walk out of that gym. But I didn't find it very enjoyable. I like a little bit more volume. I like a little bit more variety of exercises. It's personal preference. If you don't like a certain way of training, if it's not enjoyable to you, I'm not saying it should be all fun and games, but you should enjoy your training. If you don't, you're not really going to put that much enthusiasm and effort into it because you're having a bad time. So Should you train like it? I would say give it a try. Give it a try. If you like it, if you get great results, it's for you. If you try it and the opposite, you don't care for it, you're not putting on a lot of muscle mass. Yeah. I do think most people, if they've never trained with abbreviated training with a lower volume and high intensity and more rest days built into the week, I think most people would probably do well on it and make some gains, at least for a little while, just because I think a lot of us happen to walk around in an overtrained state. We've sort of gotten used to it, so we don't really recognize it anymore. But we're doing more than we need to do. We're training too many days a week without taking rest days. We're doing too many sets, too many different exercises. I mean, I'm a perpetrator myself. So if you go from that to something that's much lower volume with a lot more rest built into it, I think anybody would make good gains on it for a while. And if you keep making gains, keep doing it. I always say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if you try it and it keeps working well, keep going until the wheels fall off. But if you start to feel like burnt out on it, like dreading your workouts, and you're just not making progress anymore, go back to your volume. And you're not legally obligated to stick with any one style of training forever anyway. You could try HIT for a while. You could do HIT. You could go back to volume. You could change your training split. You're free to train whatever way you want. So switch things up as needed. But like, again, as I said, if something is working, particular exercises, styles, techniques, keep doing them. And as long as you're getting results, don't stop. That's the bottom line. Mike Cox says, smile when you mentioned the magazine. Man, that was great. Ironman, MD, flexing my great boost to the Arnold too. You actually asked a couple of questions, Mike, that I wanted to get to. You asked them in the comments that I wanted to get to before people started posting. So Mike said, did Sean Ray use a ghostwriter? So I can only speak for Sean when he wrote for MD, because he was writing in the Weider magazines too, I believe, but he did not have a ghostwriter. He wrote his own columns. I do know this. He did require some editorial cleanup, as most people do. I remember because I remember one time, or I should say for a while, I did a column called How I See It. And at one time, it was, for a long time, I think for a couple of years, it was Sean, Dorian Yates, and Kevin Leveroni. I would ask the same question, and all three of them would send me their responses. Actually, they didn't. I had to call Dorian and get his answer over the phone, and I would transcribe it. And the same thing with Kevin. Sean would send me his, and I would just have to clean it up. There would be like run-on sentences, grammar, things like that. But he wrote it himself. I never put words in Sean's mouth. So he did write his own stuff. You had another one. Mike also asks, how big was Nubane in your area back in the day? So Nubane is an opiate, a synthetic opiate, similar to methadone, heroin, that class of drugs. Bodybuilders were using it extensively in the 1990s, all over the country, probably all over the world. It was a big deal. I mean, Giles talked about he was addicted to it for a while. The late Paul DeMeo was addicted. A lot of guys were addicted because they would take it before training so that they really wouldn't feel any pain. It was a painkiller. So they were training high. And then they would go home and like, well, now I want to relax. So I'll take some more Nubane and chill out. So they ended up being on Nubane like, 24 hours or all waking hours. They were on Nubane. I never used it, probably for a good thing, because I have an addictive personality. I probably would have loved it and probably would have kept using it. But I was working in the 90s. I was working most of that decade in TV production, as well as writing on the side for the magazines. So I couldn't afford to be high. I was actually pretty straight edge for most of the 90s, most of my 20s, because I was a natural bodybuilder for most of that decade, and I didn't drink, I didn't smoke pot, anything that would ruin my gains. I would stay away from. I was pretty good kid. But Nubane, I never knew about people using it, but people all around me were using it and they just weren't talking about it. So in the 90s, I was in LA most of that decade, and it was huge in that Venice. But I lived about 30 miles east in the San Gabriel Valley. I would only be in Venice either for the weekends. I would go down and train at Gold's and walk around the boardwalk. We'd go to the beach. I love Venice Beach, Santa Monica, that whole area. I would go there almost every weekend if the weather was right, which it usually was. So it was a big deal. It was very widely used in that whole community of bodybuilders in Los Angeles in the 90s, but I wasn't part of that little clique. All right, back to the comments. Non-negotiable, variable. I lost my place. Sorry, guys. It happens to me. Thank you. Your mom's flip-flop, my cocks. Okay. Whey protein is made from eggs, yeah. It's made from milk. No, it's made from milk, isn't it? Yeah, it's made from milk. It's when they I think it's when they pasteurize milk, it's the stuff that floats to the top, the curds and whey. And they used to for hundreds of years, I think for many years, they used to throw it away. And then somebody must have done a test and realized how nutritious it was. 5 liters a day, big problem with the bathroom. Yeah, I already talked about that. You drink it too much. You probably drink it too much. When best to take creatine? Right before the workout. I would have it if it's already part of your pre-workout shake, or if not, I would just do either put a 5-gram scoop in your pre-workout, or I would dry scoop it right before you head to the gym. Take a swig of water or part of your pre-workout. But that way it's going to be circulating in your system and readily available. You know, some people do more than 5 grams. Some people will do. There's a lot of there's evidence coming out that there are additional benefits to things like memory with higher doses of creatine. But generally speaking, you know, you'll get by pretty well on 5 or 10 grams a day. Raymond says, I saw Breon the movie magazine Dreams. What if they mentioned MD? I don't think so. In fact, Breon didn't like the movie. I was trying to watch it. If it was available for rent for just like, you know, $4, $5, $6, I was gonna watch it last weekend. But I looked on demand, and right now, because it's not in any theaters, my son was going to go to the theater to see that with his friend. It wasn't playing anywhere around us. So on demand, Verizon is our cable provider, internet provider, whatever. It was available for pre-order for $24.99. I'm like, man, I'm not going to fucking buy the movie. I don't need to see it that badly. What's one myth about contest prep? You still need to be buried for like 6 feet deep. So I think I would go back to the one I said, is that you should train longer and harder with weights in prep. Totally counterproductive. If anything, you need to do a little bit less with the weights. Keep it really basic and heavy, just enough to keep the muscle mass, keep your size, keep your fullness, instead of beating the shit out of your body when it's in a depleted state. You're taking in less calories, fewer carbs, fewer good fats. You're doing more cardio. It's a horrible situation to be suddenly asking your body, let's train way more and way harder. No. So that would be the number one thing. Coenzyme Q12, whey protein comes from, you feeling all right? What's wrong with coenzyme Q12? Yeah, whey protein comes from milk. Problem with, sometimes when I'm doing these, I'm reading ahead, and yeah, I make stupid mistakes. 17, it's not to do more than 2 an hour. Actually, thanks for the tip. 2 in an hour. Yeah, if you're urinating more than twice in an hour, that's being sus. 4 meals enough per day. So, if they're big meals, if you're eating 4 big meals a day, like as much as you can eat, and you say you're an ectomorph, those 4 meals better be substantial. Like you should be eating to the point where you can't get another bite down. Like, oh, I'm full, where you feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of research showing now that we don't need to eat 5, 6, 7 meals a day like a lot of bodybuilders do. It's all about the total amount of macros, the total amount of protein, carbs, fats, calories you get in during the day, not so much. That being said, it's hard for most people to get all the nutrients and all the food they need in 3 meals. You would have to eat a lot. And most people would be hungry, very hungry by the time they got to those meals. So if you're only eating 3 times a day, let's say you eat at like 7 a.m. and you're not eating again till 1 p.m., 2 p.m., and then you're not going to eat again until like 7 or 8 p.m. That's a long time to go without eating. I do 5 meals a day. I do 5 solid meals a day and 1 shake. So eggs and oatmeal is my first meal. That's around 7:30 or so. I either go to the gym or I don't. So around 11 o'clock, if I don't go to the gym, I have a big bowl of cornflakes with whey protein in it. Cornflakes and whey protein, yum, yum. If it's a gym day, I'm doing a whey protein shake along with some fast-acting carbs like grapes or Fruity Pebbles or something like that. Something just sugary. Not a huge amount, but that's right after the workout. Chicken and rice is the next meal. That's around 1 o'clock, 1:30 at the latest. Turkey burger with cheese on a potato bread bun with a corn muffin at 4 o'clock, ground turkey with gluten-free tortilla chips, and an apple at 6:30. Last meal of the day is going to be around 9:30, and that's either going to be salmon or more lately it's a burger patty with some mixed nuts, unsalted mixed nuts, and green beans. So you don't need to do all that. If you can get 4 very substantial meals a day, but like I said, if you're doing that and you're still not gaining weight, you're going to have to try to get a 5th meal in. You're going to have to try to just get more. People always say, but I'm eating so much. I said, well, if you're not gaining, you need to eat more. Just like if somebody's dieting, they say, well, I'm not losing. I said, well, you're eating too much. They said, but I'm not eating that much. I said, well, whatever amount you're eating, it's still too much for you because you're not losing any weight. You're not getting any leaner. So when you're deep in a you already asked that one. I hope you heard I answered that one. If I inject GH in the cock to grow bigger, not that I'm aware of. No. I don't think there's anything you can do about your penis. It is what it is. Day off, just came from the gym, left out of beer. What's up, Ron? What's up, Manny? How are you? Derek has big success going from 212 to open class. Why couldn't Flex? So Flex's biggest problem turned out to be his digestive system. First, he thought it was his shoulder. He got his shoulder. He had a lot of shoulder problems. He kept going to, I think it was Chile in South America to do stem cell treatment for his shoulder. And eventually his shoulder was feeling great again. And he was all set. Him and his coach, Neil Hill, they teamed up and like, okay, we're gonna really put some more muscle mass on because he'd been holding back on his muscle growth for a couple of years because he always had to come down to 212. So they started, and he just couldn't eat all the food he needed. His stomach couldn't handle it. His GI tract was rejecting the food, and he would get nauseated and having I don't know if he was having problems pooping too much or whatever, but I just know that it was his gut health. That's what ended up preventing him from moving up. Because if you can't eat the food to grow, doesn't matter how hard you train or how much gear you use, if you can't get enough nutrients in, the building blocks, you can't make the gains. And that's what happened. Because I think he could have been Mr. Olympia. He could have been. Back in the day, if you asked me 10 years ago, I'd be like, nah, probably not. But now that we've seen Hadi become Mr. Olympia, we've seen Derek Lunsford become Mr. Olympia, I totally think Flex Lewis could have done it. Totally. Okay, to be honest, how many times have you accidentally gone to the gym just to flex a good lighting and leave? No, never, because I'm too lazy to drive all the way there. I mean, I have spots in my house that have pretty good lighting. So no, I've never done that. If I go to the gym, I got to do something. I have to at least do cardio or something. But I won't even go to the gym to do cardio now because I do it on my days I train, and there's a bike. We have a good stationary bike here if I want to do cardio. But so no, I've never done that. Over 60 would be a good workout split to help me recover from my age. So everybody's different. RG. Some people can take more training. Obviously, younger people in general can train more volume, more frequency, more days per week, and still be able to recover. The older we get, typically, we don't have that same ability anymore. Our bodies just don't bounce back the way they did. That's why, I was using a weird analogy, but when you went out and got hammered drunk when you were a young guy, you probably felt sick and everything, but the next day you'd be okay. I find now that if I do that, if I get really, really wasted, drunk, or something like that, which is very, very rare, but it takes me a couple of days to feel normal again. And with things like injuries, little aches and pains, things used to get better like immediately. Now it takes days, weeks, months sometimes for an injury or an ache or pain to fully resolve. So that being said, generally speaking, if you're 60 or over, I don't think you should be doing weights more than 4 times a week. You should probably limit your workload to something you can get done within about 45 minutes with the weights. You should also be doing cardio of course. Cardio becomes more important than the weight training at I'm going to say our age, because I'll be 56, because keeping your heart healthy is paramount. That's heart disease is the number one killer for male human beings, especially in the United States. So you want to do whatever you can to mitigate any damage to your heart. Keep your heart nice and healthy. But a good workout split, it depends. If you just really want to maintain muscle and be in great shape, not necessarily, you're not trying to build anymore at this age, a full body workout, like one exercise per body part 3 times a week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, something like that. You know, a bench press or a bench press alternative, a rowing movement, a pull down movement, a squatting movement. Just one basic movement per body part. That's fine. Or you could break it up, upper, lower. I still don't think you should be doing more than, say, 2 days in a row. You know, so you might feel like training 3 days in a row or something. Don't. I find now that I don't get my best workouts, I don't recover that well if I go more than 2 days in a row with weights. I still do go 3 days in a row a lot of times, but I can tell by the third day, I'm not 100% in the gym. I mean, my body's just saying, back off, give yourself just a day. And then if I take 2 days of weights, take 1 day off and come back, I'm usually feeling great again on that day I come back. But, you know, you got to play it by ear, because it also depends on how much energy. Some people have plenty of energy well into their 60s and 70s. Other people are like dragging ass. So, you know, try that. Try a full body, or try upper 1 day, lower another day, or the old standby is push pull legs. Push pull legs. I love that split. That's what I've been doing for a few years now. Push day is chest, shoulders, triceps. Pull day is back and biceps. I throw rear delts in there too, and obviously legs is legs. I typically don't do all 3 in a row. I'll do two in a row, take a day off, and then come back to the sequence. So it might be push, pull, day off, legs, push, day off, pull, push. You understand what I'm saying. So try out if you. There's no optimal perfect split. I'm a bodybuilding scientist. You are a bodybuilding scientist. Well, you're asking it with a question mark at the end. I don't know if I'm a bodybuilding scientist, but I've been around quite a while. You necessarily need wide clavicles to have a good career in bodybuilding. Soon the shoulders are well built. They don't have to be wide, but they can't be narrow. Put it that way. Like people used to say, well, Phil Heath had narrow clavicles. There is not one pro bodybuilder, not one ever, who had narrow clavicles. We say narrow, I mean narrower than average. So some people have average clavicles, normal width, regular width, just average. That's what the word means. Those people build plenty of shoulder mass, deltoid mass on top of the clavicles, and it gives the illusion of wider shoulders. But you look at Phil Heath, if you see where the bones are, you can see the little bone popping out the top of his shoulder. That's where the clavicles really, that's how wide his shoulders really were. He built like this much shoulder side delt to the side on each side, so it gave the illusion of greater width, but he had average width. If you have narrow clavicles, you're screwed, unfortunately. I'm sorry. It's never going to be structurally impressive because you're never going to have a V taper. So narrow clavicles, unfortunately, you might end up looking like a pear if you have wide hips. I mean, that's the absolute worst bone structure a man can have, because we are judged on the traditionally masculine frame of the wide shoulders, is narrow clavicles and wide hips. You're going to have a pear shape to your body, especially if you have narrow clavicles and you gain a bunch of body fat. You have a big fat butt and gut. Oh, it's horrible. So yeah, if you want to be a really good bodybuilder, it starts with that gifted frame, which is from birth. And some guys have these, like, look at Derek Lunsford. He's only 5. I don't know if he claims 5'5" or 5'6", but whatever he is, 5'5" or 5'6", he's got the clavicle width of a much, much taller guy. If you stand in front of him or in back of him, if you see how wide his shoulders are, and I'm talking about the bones, the span of the clavicles, they're very wide, especially for somebody his height. You very rarely see clavicles that wide on someone who's as short as he is. So he had a huge structural advantage. Hadi Choopan, also very wide clavicles. Geez, a really good example of wide clavicles would be Andrew Jacked. Andrew has some of the widest clavicles in pro bodybuilding ever. So Trump, what's your opinion on 24 to 26 fasting cleanse? I'm not going to shit on it because I've never tried it. So people say it's a great thing. It detoxifies your body, cleanses your body. I've never tried it. Who the hell keeps messaging me? Someone named William. Jesus. Yeah, I've never tried it, so I can't really give you an opinion. People do. I have heard a lot of people say great things about it. They feel that it really helps detoxify their body, and they feel so much healthier after these cleanses and these fasts. But I like to eat. I don't like being that hungry for that long. That's just me. Best way to bring out the lats is to build them. So if you're talking about the width in the upper back, you're going to build most of that through vertical pulling movements. Chin-ups, pull-ups, whatever you want to call them, lat pull-downs. Those are going to work mostly that upper portion of your back, which isn't really your lats. It's your traps, it's your teres major, minor, your rhomboids, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, all those muscles of the upper back. Those are going to be built through those. For the lats, what we consider lats, you need to do horizontal pulling movements, which pulling things towards you, rows, barbell rows, dumbbell rows, T-bar rows, machine rows, cable rows, row. So rows are the best way to really bring that out. You could still have a wide upper back, like a lot of people do, from doing, focusing more on the pull-ups and the lat pull-downs, things like that. But you'll lack that really full, thick, dense look to the back if you don't have the back thickness. And for that, you need a lot of rows. Lord Crawford, any point in Boldenone, equipoise, alongside TRT for 12 weeks? Any point, it'll help you make more gains if that's your goal. It's certainly going to help you make better gains than you would have on just the TRT. So yeah, if you want to do it and you're keeping your blood work in check and all that, I'm not going to stop you. What's your thoughts on the top tier bodybuilders using synthol? Yeah, here's the thing is, I guess we only know about synthol when it's fairly obvious. If you believe what a lot of people claim is that all the pros, or at least almost all the pros, use some sort of site enhancement oil, but most of them do it in such a way so that it's not obvious. They're injecting deep into the muscle. They're not going overboard and keep injecting more and more. They're doing just enough to bring out a little more fullness, a little more roundness to the muscle by going deep into the belly of the muscle. Then you have people that do go way, way overboard. I mean, we've seen, especially in Brazil, there's an epidemic of these mentally ill people, these guys who put tons of it in their traps and their chest, and they're all over. I did a video on it because I think it looks disgusting. It's an abomination. It's grotesque. I don't want to see, even in pro bodybuilders, I don't want to see it. We can't stop them from doing anything. There's no way to stop anybody from using any substance. But if it's obvious, I think it should be marked down. If somebody's shoulders are really weird and funky looking, like we saw a few years ago at the Olympia, Hadi Choopan's shoulders were all jimmied up. It was very obvious. They looked square. The angles, the shape was all wrong. And as a result, I think they placed him like 4th or 5th that year. Without that, he would have won. I think he won the next year. I believe he won the next year because he didn't have it in his shoulders. And they were they were rewarding him for having that nice clean look without the weird, crazy angles. So I'm not a fan of it. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Unfortunately, it's widely used. There's no way to test for it. They're not going to test for it. So the only thing they can really do is if it looks weird and obvious, they do score people down. And that's a good thing. I'm glad to see that. Did Sebum have surgery to fix a wide pelvis? Not that I'm aware of. I don't think he ever had a wide pelvis. No, I mean, what surgery would you have? Would they go in and shave it down? No, I don't remember him ever being out of commission, because a surgery like that, I imagine you wouldn't be able to train for a while. That sounds very, very invasive. So I've never heard that before. Pain-free and moderate weight is fine for me too. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're talking about the shoulder, but if I could have no pain in that shoulder and just be able, if I could even do like 30, 40-pound dumbbell presses overhead again, I'd be so grateful, because I can't, with this arm, I can't even get the arm up. I can't even do a 1-pound dumbbell. It doesn't move that way right now. It's locked. There's a huge bone spur in there that's preventing movement. It's all kinds of weird things going on in there. Mom's flip-flop. Question. I love when people answer when they get asked, would you do it all again? No, you cheat. I mean, everybody would probably go back in their life and change some things, but everything we've done made us, everything good and bad, all the choices we made, good choices, bad choices. Hopefully we learned from the bad choices we made and the consequences of our actions, and it all led to where we are today. It made us the person that we are today. So I wouldn't have changed too much. Would I have not used gear? No. Because if I never started gear, I would always be wondering, well, what if I use gear? How big could I get? Hey, I've been very fortunate with my health. I never had any major health problems from all the gear use that I did for years and years. But no, I don't think I would change too much. I really wouldn't. I probably would have warmed up more and wouldn't have done as much ego lifting as I did at times. That's probably the one thing I would change. Jay Cutler, relatively wide waist, big man. Yeah, so that's a good example. But he had very wide clavicles. Jay has very wide. If you've ever, even now when he's downsized, stand in front of Jay Cutler. He's still got a lot of muscle on him, guys. Don't get it twisted. But he's down about 40, 50 pounds of muscle from what he was when he was huge. But the clavicles, the shoulder bones on Jay, very wide. Super wide shoulders, super wide back. For a guy at 5'9", he had the width, the shoulder span usually you see on somebody who's well over 6 foot. Brian Tweed, nothing to ask me. Your thumbnail pic looks amazing. Thank you. That picture was, thanks. That black and white picture in the thumbnail was 2009. So I was 39 years old there. I wasn't that young. I was younger now. Significantly younger than I am now, yes. But I was no spring chicken there. I was already close to 40. Any tips on getting the lats to really start growing? Row. I mean, I would do just one type of pull down movement or chin ups, and then I would do like 3 different kind of rows. And if you can deadlift, it's like rack deadlifts are good too. But man, just a lot of heavy free weights. Don't worry so much about the machines, the cables. You can throw those in there, but man, dumbbell rows, T-bar rows, barbell rows, you cannot beat those. Just work your ass off on rows. I'm confident about at least. Oh, yeah, that's me, man. Thanks. I run premium 50 mg per week on a cruise alongside 100 mg test. It's a pretty low dose. You probably get good results on that. And a lot of people, like, if you said that, I bet a lot of people call you a liar. They would say there's nobody can do 100 milligrams of test is very, very low, very low. That's like a minimum TRT dose for most guys. Most guys who are on TRT are 150 to 250. 200 is like a very, very average amount for TRT use, most guys. But I have heard of guys doing 150, sometimes even 100, but that's rare. But the fact that you're doing very well on those low doses shows you don't have to go high doses. In fact, the less you can use and still get results, the better off you'll be, I believe. Because you're saving money, you're creating less risk for your long-term health and longevity. So, it's like what Lee Priest and I talked about in the interview that's up right now on this channel. Start low. If you're going to use steroids, start with smaller amounts. See how you do. And then as time goes on, you can build from there. But there's no reason to come out of the gate your first cycle with a gram of this and a gram of that. That's stupid. To me, like I said, that's like starting recreational drug use. Instead of smoking a joint, you're going to go straight to fentanyl or methadone, crystal meth or something. Why does muscle discord? I don't know. I don't know what their deal is. I told Matt, I said, I don't know what the deal is with you and Fouad. I don't want to know. I have nothing against Fouad. I've never had a bad interaction with Fouad Abiad. Whatever their deal is, their beef, it's got nothing to do with me, and I don't want any part of it. Between them. Primo was so expensive back then. It's still expensive, Mike. I had it once in 96, paid $19 in the amps, sharing brown amps. I had to inquire about it for someone a year or so ago. And it was like, it's like $250 a bottle, whereas like test or Deca is like $70 a bottle, $60 to $80 a bottle is like a general range. Primo, $200 to $300 a bottle. 300 is a lot, but when you're desperate, you'll pay whatever you got to pay. Where do people get roids from? Dude, Google it. There's websites. There are so many people out there selling it. Gym dealers. People get it through the mail. People get it on the dark web, whatever. There's a lot of ways to get it. But 17, I would hope you're not going to be using them for a while. What's up, Dan Cardillo? What's up, Dillo? Make my own. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people make their own. Oh, you make your own Primo Ball? Yeah, if you can, you can order the powder, the raw powder from China. China doesn't give a shit who they sell to. They don't worry about the legal side of it. They just still sell it to you. But you got to try to get through customs. If you customs stops it, you're screwed. But people do buy the raw powders of steroids from people in China, companies in China that make the raw powders for all the steroids. And if you know a little about chemistry and all that, you can make your own. I mean, I'm not telling you to do it. I wouldn't do it. I don't know how to make freaking steroids, and I'm not about to try, but people have done it. Pittsburgh going to be absolutely. I think it's awesome. Your son's going on stage. You'll be there for it. Yeah, I can't miss my son. I'm not going to miss my son's show. I mean, I wouldn't miss it for the world. That's his second show. His first day is the Sunday before that, 6 days before. But no, I wouldn't miss that for the world. Jay Science Fix going. Remember, you get the plug. What plug? I don't know what plug you mean. Because one eyeball body fat, if you have a decent six-pack, a low back. Yeah, I mean, I don't put a lot of stock in the numbers, the body fat percentage numbers per se, but I can tell, generally speaking, look at somebody and say you're X amount of weeks out, or you probably need to drop about X amount of weight to be stage ready. So, yeah, I mean, I can eyeball body fat pretty well. So if you have a decent six-pack, but low back, legs, and glutes still have a ways to go. I mean, if I say 10 pounds or 20 pounds, it depends on whether you're 150 pounds or 250 pounds in terms of weight, but you still have a way to go. I mean, most men, the last place we lose body fat is going to be around the middle, the love handle area, the low back, and obviously the glutes. I mean, the glutes are the last place on any human being where the fat's going to come from. It's very hard to get striated glutes. You have to be very, very lean, like incredibly lean to have striated glutes. Very much so. Let's see, will there be a pro show? I don't think so. I mean, I wish there were, but the only way I see that happening is if Jay Cutler stepped in and put it on. He's the only person I know of that could make it happen. The guy who put it on 3 years ago, that was a one and done deal. He lost a lot of money. People were complaining they didn't get paid. People associated with the show. So he'll never do it again. But I don't know if it's correct. I heard Dan Duchesne made all kinds of drugs in his home. Dan's dead, so I can't ask him. I only met him a couple times. Didn't know the guy. Yeah, maybe I will do that, Mike. Maybe I will. And then I have to go into hiding. Sean Ray has an eloquent vocabulary, extremely knowledgeable. Last thing he was a ghostwriter. Yeah, he didn't need a ghostwriter. Most of the guys that ghost wrote for, they could have done it. I wasn't writing elaborate novels or anything. It's just, they were paid a monthly salary from MD, from Steve Bleckman, to be available for us for photo shoots and for articles. That's it, for content. And, to make it easier on them, because especially easier on our editors who, if they say, well, I want your column by the 10th of the month, most people suck at deadlines. Pro bodybuilders, you tell them I want a 1,000-word column on the 10th every month. Very few of them are going to give it to you. Some of them will never come up with it, or they'll be like a week late and the editor's sitting there tearing his hair out because he needs to get the magazine done. So they would just typically, it was just easier for me to call them up, ask the questions, get all the information from them, and I would just write it up. So I wasn't writing out of thin air. I wasn't making things up. I would call them and get all the information, transcribe it, and then I would write the column and email it immediately to the editor so they had it and they needed it. Because and Sean was pretty good with deadlines. Sean understood, but a lot of people, they were not good with writing deadlines. They would just keep putting it off. 10 grams creatine. Yeah, there really aren't any side effects, any negative effects to creatine. Testy in 20 years, I want to start again. It's 250 a week. A good dose. Well, you'd have to go by your blood work, D-post. We all metabolize drugs differently. So depending on where your levels are at and what kind of results you see, 250 might be a great dose. 250 might be, I don't think it would be too much because that's the high end of a TRT dose. So you might start with 250, go a few weeks, and then if you're not happy with the results, you could try 300 or 350, so on and so on. I would just gradually increase it. You don't want to just double it, triple it. You don't want to make large jumps, just like anything else. You don't want to increase your calories far too excessively or decrease them. Everything should be done sort of incrementally. Let's see. Turkey burger with corn muffin. Oh, it's delicious. I love corn muffins. I put them in the toaster oven, get them all crispy and crunchy. So they're even better. I like the texture that way. Do the bike 3 times a week. Jerry Guns. What's up, Jerry? It's good cardio. Jerry, you're about my age, maybe even older. So I would do a little more cardio just because, I care about us older guys. So keep your heart nice and strong and healthy, Jerry. I would throw a couple more cardio sessions there, or some fast walks, something. A little more cardio. It's going to be good for you. Two of my friends just died recently, 55, 58. Yeah. Yeah, nothing's guaranteed, man. I mean, my dad was 57 when he died. He had cancer. He also had high blood pressure. He was on meds for that. He might have had a heart attack if the cancer hadn't killed him. I don't know. I'll never know. So, I want to live longer than that, obviously. Put inside 51. Oh, you're 51. Okay. I knew you were somewhere around my age. 4 days a week. 2 days on, 1 day off for weights, then 3 days off. Yeah. There's no ideal schedule. If you find a pattern, a schedule that works well for you, you're golden, Everyone's got to figure out what works best for them, adapt everything to your own needs, your energy levels, your lifestyle. And once you find what works for you, it doesn't matter what anyone else says, what anyone else does. You stick to what you're doing because that works for you. That's my feeling on it. Legs and shoulders, back biceps, and chest and shoulders. Yeah, it's a good split, solid split. Jerry does chest on Monday, Tuesday, leg day, back on Wednesday, Thursday, shoulder, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Yeah. So when's arm? When do you do arms? I don't see arms in there, Jerry. Uh-oh. The body for bodybuilding. Oh, okay. I mean, I would have loved to be a pro wrestler if I could have done that. When I was a younger guy, I loved watching WWF, later WWE. I think I would have been great for the, what's the part where they talk? What are those called? The promos? I think I would have been great at the promos because I did some acting when I was younger. Kind of a different question. Flex versus Jose, 2015. Who's right for one? I'm going to reuse this soon. Hey, Project Bodybuilding. Josh, right? Two very different physiques. Flex had much prettier shape, structure. It was a much more aesthetically pleasing physique, and he got into great condition too. Jose, more of a Herculean, massive physique. So it's really what you like. They were both equally deserving of the win. I know that was the year that I believe Jose won the Arnold Classic earlier that season, and he was second to Flex Lewis. That's the best Jose ever did at the Olympia, but the win could have gone to Jose. They were both equally deserving that year. EQ is not bad. No, I used it many times. Like someone misplaced their car keys. Remember the exact cycle protocol for some prep motors on Trent. If you misplace your car keys, you're just you probably have short-term memory loss. These are weird questions, Ionic. I got to say, I don't even remember cycles I did years ago. People said, "What'd you do? What'd you do?" I say, I'm not being evasive. I just don't remember. I should have written. That's one regret I do have is I should have kept a little notebook or a logbook or computer file, something where I wrote down every cycle that I did and what I used. I used this drug in this amount on these days. I should have done that. I never did it. So I just have like vague recollections of cycles that I used to run. I wish I had kept records of that. That is one regret I have. Because people ask me, and I'm like, I kind of have a general idea. I know what I did, but to be like really precise, I couldn't tell you exactly how much of this or that I used. I don't remember. In inches, what would you consider to be a small waist? I'd say anything under like 32 would be a small waist. My son just measured his waist at 26. Again, he's only 134 pounds. He's 5'7" and a half and 134 pounds. So a 26-inch waist is still very small, but I'd say anything over 32, unless you're a really big, tall guy. Yeah, if you're an average height, size bodybuilder, anything over 32 or 33 in shape, it's a big waist. It's starting to be a big waist. I'm going to be out of here soon, guys. We've been doing this a while. Another tip I'd really appreciate would be on back training. My gym doesn't have any rowing machines. So okay, let's see. We'll just do bent over bar row. Yeah, well, if they have dumbbells, do dumbbell rows. One-arm dumbbell rows. Each side, obviously. Barbell rows. I mean, before all these machines and stuff were around, people built really big backs with the basics, like Franco Colombo, one of the best backs ever, twice Mr. Olympia. Tons of T-bar rows, barbell rows, and deadlifts. A lot of chin-ups. So, I mean, I wouldn't worry too much about the machines. They're great. I love using back machines with the chest support and stuff too, but you can't go wrong with the free weights. I mean, they've worked for like 100 years. They're always gonna work. Can barely mix creatines. Pop it in your mouth and pop the dry powder in your mouth and drink some water. Hope you're Son is good. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. Can you find out what happened to James? I don't even know who that is, Candy. I'm sorry. I don't even know who it is. Will I make a supplement line? No, I will not. Dang, Ron, didn't know that. Sorry. Anyway, cardio once a day. Oh, my dad is every time. Well, yeah. My dad died in 1986. My mom died in 2008. Cardio once a day for 30 minutes or every 2 days for 7 minutes. I would do it every day. Every day for 30 minutes. Yeah. Cardio is something you want. If you can do a little bit every day, a little bit. Especially if you're a hard gainer, I wouldn't be doing a lot of cardio. I don't think you should be doing 70 minutes of cardio ever. That's too much. Anything over an hour cardio, that's too much, guys. I think 45 minutes is about the absolute most I would want to see somebody doing cardio in one session. The most cardio I would ever have anybody doing ever would be like, and this is like an obese person, would be an hour in the morning and an hour later in the afternoon or evening. 2 hours of cardio, absolute max. And that would only be for very extreme situations where somebody is obese and they need to burn a lot of calories. For the average person, 30 minutes a day, like 5-6 times a week is probably ideal on rest days, basically. I mean, yeah, I would do more cardio on the rest days rather than try to do all that in once, because you're already at the gym doing weights, probably an hour and a half. Then you're going to be doing a half hour to 45 minutes of cardio. That's a lot to be doing in one session. I'd rather see you doing more cardio on the off days from weights. Speaking, I was supposed to buy which sport would have been a part of work. I don't think I was good at anything else. I wasn't good at any other sport. I wrestled in my last year of high school. I was okay. I wasn't anything special. No, I'm not athletically talented at all. So no. Yeah. Oh, wow, guys. I've been doing this over now an hour and a half now. So very much appreciate you all hanging out with me today. How big was New Pain? Let me get rid of the banner. Very much appreciate you guys hanging with me today on this live. We'll do it again sometime soon. And is there one last question? One last question. Or just say goodbye. Just do Rose posts. Boy, more and more HIT volume training. Yeah, guys, I'll do this again because I got to get going. I got a couple things I need to take care of. So thank you all for watching very much. Appreciate it. Please subscribe, like, share, do all that good stuff. I'm here for you. So whenever we do one of these, I'm here for any questions that you might have. So peace, love, and happiness. Thanks for watching, guys.